Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's vOLTHA TST. Thanks for joining. As usual, the call is public and recorded and will be shared live on YouTube, so please be mindful of the comments you make and the information you share. As we discussed last week, I'd like to make a final decision on what the next steps are for the Kafka to gRPC today. Before we do that, let's get our full state of information on how where we stand. Ken, Theo, David, do you mind giving us an update? I can do it as well, but you guys are more into the technical elements.
Okay, I'll give an update on the code base itself. There has been changes that has been put in place last week, mostly around the gRPC reconnection. There was to handle failures a little bit better. So that there's changes there. There has been also changes that has been put in place following some of the code review comments. Yes, there has been change added there. There has been a release change on the Pro Tools and the vOLTHA library. So that requires a change all over the place. So there may be some instability here and there because of that change. In my environment, it works well, but it's, I know David had some issues and he updated some changes there. Then what else? There has been, from a testing side of things, there has been changes on the test cases that we have, the test suite that we have, to enable some tests to pass. There has been, and really the one that we have the most issues around is around failure scenarios, and then we do reconcile it at that time. It's really to figure out like when devices has been fully reconciled before we start to issue request. And in the current code base, there's no clear indication when a reconcile is complete. Like the core has that information, but that information is internal in the core and it's not available outside. So we have looked at different ways to do that, and there's ways where it's working that's not very consistent, and it's not consistent because we just don't have that exact timing. And also there are some cases where we are seeing that the core can connect to the adapters, but when your adapter goes down, the core needs to connect to it, but the vOLTHA adapter also needs to connect to it. So in most cases, that's not an issue, but there are some corner cases where Theo saw some issues with enable device where the vOLTHA adapter, for some reason, was not didn't connect to the ONU adapter at the time that the request came in. So it looks like there is a period of time where the system needs to be all reconciled among each one of them before a request can be sent. So it's something like it could be a corner case. It's something that we need to look closely at that one. And that's it from my side. I'll let Theo, Girish, and David provide the updates as well.
Yeah, so I think that the code is working as expected as of now. As Ken mentioned, we made a change in the test to make sure that the reconcile is completed before moving on with the other checks. And there is still one thing that needs to be addressed from a testing perspective, that is that we need to make sure that the system is ready to accept a request before actually starting the test. Otherwise, the situation will always be shaky. And we'll probably have to add some other tests to make sure that the system can recover from whatever state it is in, but that will have to happen in the future, not as part of this change. So just to prove that theory that we need to wait for the system to be stable before starting the test. I made a run yesterday evening, number 76, in which I added a random delay of 30 seconds after the test think that the system is ready. And when I did that, all the tests passed. Because all the issues we're seeing in the test is basically we're trying to enable the device when the system is not ready yet for one reason or the other.
Again, some of this I take as the tests need to ensure the system is in the state it thinks it should be in before the test is initiated, which is just good test code. Particularly if you're just trying to test a known good scenario, expecting an outcome. The system seems to work well when everything's up and running and connected, and then we've been working through the tests to ensure we're checking the proper things, it looks like, in terms of failure, rather than just assuming within a given time frame something will be up. And I think that is good in general for our tests. I did, as Ken mentioned, go through and propagate some of the version protos and lib version stuff through some other repos. And I'm running a test right now on my standard 4 or 5 tests that I run. So far, so good. But I think things seem to be passing in general.
Okay. I've also made a review of the code, which in general seems to be fairly good. I've seen Grish and Mahir doing the same for ONU adapter or OLT adapter. So that's good. The only thing that still is up for this, at least I want to hear everybody's opinion on, is the scale. Because for a number of reasons, among which the fact that we are now end-to-end waiting for an acknowledgement of the flow before actually reporting it to ONUS, the scale tests are fairly slow. Is that correct, Theo? You have looked at the results as well.
So I just made a run yesterday, so I don't have any definitive number. But honestly, more than the flow, the thing that seems to take the most time is for the uniports to be reported to ONUS. So, for example, if you look at the Deutsche Telekom based test, in the discovery phase, we basically have no flows being provisioned. So the end-to-end thing there will not affect the system much. But it just takes almost 8 minutes to report 1,000 uniport to the system. And I haven't even opened the log yet. I don't know what the reason for that is. Well, you're looking at the one that is not gRPC based, and you won't find any result there because the cluster haven't been deployed in a little bit.
Yeah, that there's an issue with the pod. We are looking into that.
The system in general went from a state where everything was being done concurrently to where things were not. We're processing messages in sequence, which is, for some messages, absolutely what we want to do. Is there further optimization around understanding when we can process messages in sequence and when we can't, in terms of that optimization? That makes sense.
I'm not sure I understood your point.
Yeah, neither did I.
So okay, so we went from a system where, you know, a command came down and we just acted as soon as we put it on a bus, and we never understood if it got to the other end, right? And we did a lot of concurrent processing everywhere, almost to the point where we had the the pendulum all on one side. We're launching Go processes like crazy. Have we just we recognize through some of the testing around gRPC that all the concurrency had was not appropriate in terms of how to process messages. In other words, some messages had to be in sync. And the question is, did we just swing the pendulum to the other side to say, okay, because we know we have synchronized processing of messaging issues, and we rather than try to distinguish between which are processed sequentially and which are processed concurrently, did we just swing the pendulum all the other side and say we're going to process everything sequentially? And is that affecting performance? And we just need to find that proper balance in the middle. Is that what's happening here, or is there something else?
I wish I had an answer.
Looking at what you're showing there on your screen, in terms of the timing there, yeah, you're correct. The bond discovery seems to take an awful lot of time, and most of this is just from discovery from the adapters. The adapters setting those ports to active, and then a notification goes back to owners. So I think it's an area. If there's more logs on that in that area, that would be good to look into this one, or even to run a smaller scale just to see what's causing that, because that's a long time. Because this is all messages coming up into owners. It's not from owners down.
Do we know the old timings? Do we have a comparison?
We do.
Yeah, I need to find them, but I think it was somewhere around 180 seconds.
So one from about 200 seconds to over 800 seconds.
Yeah.
So one from about 200 to 600 plus.
Just curious, I mean, is it taking more or less time now between port discovery and flow validation in almost after subscriber provisioning? Between 616 and 829, have things improved now, or it's same or worse?
I don't know top of my head. Would have to get some of the old measurement.
Yeah, it's roughly about 3 minutes or so, 3.5 minutes. So.
Yeah, it would be good to have that number.
Yeah, I can find it back. Just make another run and connect it and collect it. I can share it. That's not an issue. Just unfortunately, the pod was Docker on one of the nodes on that server was going crazy, so the jobs failed in the last couple of days.
Yeah, the system is not healthy. I tried a few things today and actually have to say made it worse. Docker service on one of the nodes had many Prometheus and Onos images stuck and running, and even with forced delete, there were some issues that were still there hidden, and thus probably some resource consumption was getting hit. Whatever, we'll fix it. We'll get back to it. Okay, so the other thing that I would like to mention is that while we have made all the tests run, some of them were really thought with Kafka-based timing and acknowledgement in mind. So, for example, the one where we delete the reconciliation tests of the OpenONU Go adapter, they are running now correctly, but there's, for example, the removal of the meters in Onos. That's something that we have to turn off for that test for a series of reasons, and also the timing of reconciliation and of the different device after the adapter restarts has had little changes in there. So what we probably should do is after we merge all this stuff, we should probably revise some of these tests in such a way that we can not have them time-based and very sensitive to timing, but actually a state-based test that waits until the state is there and not the time. So that's something else that I wanted to mention. Okay, so now it comes to the action items for the code. So I think we can go ahead and merge this stuff. Ken, you're the author of all of this. What is the right set of steps to do this? I have an idea, but I'll let you describe if you have it.
Well, in terms of merging, the first thing is really like finish all the code reviews.
Okay.
And update and address all issues found in the code. Mm-hmm. Once that's done, then we have to build the image and go with redo those tests. And once that passes, then we can do the merge.
Yes.
And one thing for sure, I really want to see to look at that scale issue that we are seeing.
Yes.
Because I think it's important that we look at it. It looks like there's something that is holding up that upon discovery. I just want to, and I don't think it's a gRPC per se, but it could be something that is some code changes that I did that is making it slow.
Yes.
So I really want to look into it.
Theo, one thing, can we just for the time being, if we don't get the scale cluster up to date, move the second scale cluster, the one we use for multi-stack, to single stack for some time until we figure this scale issue out?
Yeah, but by the way, the scale pods, I think it's back.
Oh, okay, good.
I'm running now the test with the Kafka-based version to get the difference in the numbers.
Okay, we can talk about this later. Perfect. Okay, yes, let's. Okay, so in terms of reviews, please, guys, spend some time on this. Given that we have done the tests, I would say that now the focus of today and tomorrow for everybody needs to be review these things. Especially the libgo and the protos that are the first thing that need to merge. The rest, I've done a full pass. They're long reviews, so just keep in mind you need to allocate a bunch of time to do these reviews. It's not something that you do in like 30 minutes. I would like to set a date for the reviews to come in, because otherwise we just drag another week. I would like that to happen on Thursday, end of business Pacific. So what we do Friday, which is in 3 days from now, what we do Friday is we build the whole images and we let everything run with those images over the weekend. And when I say everything, I mean the hardware parts, the scale, the multi-stack, the gRPC, the OpenONU Go test, the BBSIM. We basically put it everywhere. In every test we have, we put those images. And after the weekend, we have a bunch of data to take a look at. Would that work for everybody?
Sounds good to me, but we still need to address the
scale
test,
issue,
quote unquote, issue. No, leave the scale issue aside. There are random failures that happen now in the test because we start the test too early. And until we address that, we are going to have an inconsistent result.
Yes. So there's two approaches to that. One is to actually make a real fix, open to suggestions here. One that I have, and I wrote it in the channel, is that we could make a tiered approach to the reporting of the adapters to the core, which means that if the adapters do not register within themselves, they're not going to report themselves to the core. So the first step is the adapter registering the OLT to ONU, ONU to OLT. And then when that happens, both of them go to the core. The OF agent reports to the core, and then we should be good to go.
And unfortunately, it doesn't work. It won't work this way. The reason is the OLT adapter. The only time an OLT adapter connects to an ONU adapter, it's when it has a device, a child device that has been discovered. Otherwise, it doesn't know it has to connect to an OLT adapter or to any other adapters, because it's if you have a case of multiple adapter instances, it needs to know to which one that device belongs to make sure it has a connection to that one. So it's only when device are present that connection is established between the adapters.
Okay, so what's your suggestion? Can we, yeah.
Like the test that fails, like the one that Matteo saw. Matteo sent me those logs. So I need to look at those logs and see if there is something there that is there a bug, or is there something that missing out, or is there something that we can do better. So I will need to look at that log to know if there's something that we could do.
Okay. So what we're saying is that we're living with Theo's patch for the tests, reconciliation tests, and that we still need to address the
we basically need to figure out when to start testing stuff.
Yeah, if there's I don't know if it's we'll find a way to know exactly when the system is ready. Maybe we'll need some APIs or additional things and for that. But let me first look at the logs to see if there's something that we can do there.
Okay.
Just a general question for the tests. Yeah, it's okay. I mean, but in the real world, how this would work? I mean, the adapter could restart anytime. So how would an application on top of vOLTHA know that it has to retry? Are there any proper error codes that it needs to look for to retry the request? And that's something that's not clear to me.
Yeah, if we look at in terms of the Kafka world, when we were doing, for example, if we take an enable device, let's say the ONU adapter went down. So we send an enable device, the core gets it, the core sends it to the OLT adapter. The OLT adapter do all those device discoveries, send a message to the core and saying I discovered a device. And then the core send an adopt device, the ONU adapter, but the ONU adapter is not there. So we just send it on the Kafka message. And the OLT adapter at that time, all it knows is, okay, I sent something on the Kafka bus. So in the Kafka world, that message is actually lost if an ONU adapter goes down. And that applies for a lot of requests. and that we're seeing. Now, with gRPC, we're actually getting errors. Maybe we're not handling them properly, but at least things are a little bit more visible. Before, a lot of those were silent. And we were not seeing those issues because we had a Kafka messaging bus there that was acting as a buffer. And in a way, it was hiding those potential failures. But if there was such a failure, it's that would be silent failure in the Kafka world.
Yeah, thanks. My question was like, we are trying to make sure the system is ready. I mean, right now it's a hack. I have some 30-second timer, and then start the test. But in the real world, the adapter could restart here. And how do you make sure the system is ready before you retry a request? I mean, that's where I think there was another topic. I don't see it now. To expose some transient states in the read-write core to make sure that the system is in a sane state before retrying the request. We need some mechanism for external applications.
I think we need some mechanism, but also like the error handling. We'll say we don't have much of a error handling across board. Like we have followed mostly the successful path, not really the failure path. So it's yes, we like you say it correctly. It's the system. Any containers can go down anytime, and we need to be able to provide a notification or an error when a request comes in, if that cannot be fully processed across all the containers. So that's something that it needs to be done. But this is exactly the same case as in Kafka. It just gRPC make it look even worse.
Yeah, it's not urgent. I mean, we don't want to address that right now, but sometime before the release, at least, we need to look into it.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So yeah, let's address this and try to get these in before the weekend, so we can have a set of runs over the weekend over all our tests. Would that be a reasonable target? Ken, do you think it is doable with these two issues?
I think it should be doable. It's just a question, like we need to look at the logs, and then depending on the kind of issues we are seeing, it could be in something very easy to do, or it's something a little bit hard. But the first is to detect the problem, to understand the problem. That's the stage where we are at this time.
Okay. Any comments or questions on this one? Okay, then if not, let's move to the next agenda item. I ordered this a little bit differently because there is an issue that I would like Hardik to mention to discuss. The idea is that there was a ticket some time ago from Circuit that highlighted how there was some stale state in the TCD after some deletion of the devices. So after the work we have done for 2.8, it seemed, at least was the impression, that that stale state was not there anymore. But the folks at Deutsche Telekom, Mike, Bjorn, and Paul's team, reported to us that there is still actually some stale state. They saw it on the ONU front whenever the device got deleted. So Hardik wrote a test and actually found out that there's a lot of stale state in the TCD whenever we do a delete of the device. Hardik, do you want to give us a little bit of a more in-depth thoughts on this?
Yes, thanks, Andrea. So yes, there is this old Jira 3731, I think, which has been worked upon by Serkant, and this talks about this issue of the stale data in etcd. There was a patch submitted against it, but looks like the issue is kind of still there, and that has been reported by Amit recently through other Jira 4346. Those Jiras has all the details, and as it mentions that even after we delete the device, the OLT device, we see some stale data related to the ports in etcd, and that could be problematic. That should not really be there. So to verify that and to prevent that in future, I started writing a keyword for this, which will verify that okay, after we do a delete of the device, we should currently we check only onos. Now, as part of new keyword, which is some kind of working on, we'll check the etcd data as well. So yeah, but the issue is still there. We need to address this, fix it, and and with that the new keyword, we can prevent this from happening in future. Andrea, if you can go to the other Jira 4346, the one that is created by Amit.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So if you check this output log, you could see some stale entries in the attachment file if you open that.
Yes.
So I tried this on one of our quads, yes, and yeah, I could confirm that the issue is there. So yeah, this is, I think, all the data that is there after the device OLT reboot. So also, I have another linked question regarding to help me with the test. Is what all information do we really store in etcd? One is the ports, the logical ports, logical meters, but do we store the flows information as well? Amit, Serkant, if anyone or anyone else can update me, because currently I don't see that, but as part of Serkant's Jira, I see some flows information was also there earlier. I'm not sure if it's removed now or we are missing adding it to the etcd now.
The core itself doesn't store any flows anymore in etcd. So I don't know if there's any other component doing that, but definitely the core no longer does that.
My inspection was on vOLTHA 2.7, so I don't know the what is left in the etcd on vOLTHA 2.8.
Yeah, so we did the extensive analysis and work on this in the last release. There's a document that captures what were the old keys, what were the new item that is being stored. I can share that with you, Hardik. And also looking at the data that Andrea shared, just open. It looks like just the keys are present. The value is not there. I don't know why just the keys are remaining.
I think it's the way how the get might have been performed, probably. I think it's just the output of the get. If you mention that, it will just, yeah,
okay.
It must have mentioned the keys only as in the option.
Oh, got it. This is strange. We do handle cleanup. I think we need to look into this.
Yeah.
So as an additional info, I had a patch. Now it is merged on the vOLTHA libgo. That was about deleting entries using a key, actually using a mask. So, but the other patches in RW core and vOLTHA OpenVOLT adapter, there were some comments, so we couldn't merge those patches. But for the vOLTHA 2.8, if we use the delete with prefix method from KB, that would be useful because when the OLT is restarted, we are trying to delete lots of data from the etcd at the same time. So instead of deleting all of the data one by one, deleting with prefix is faster than the other method.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, maybe what I think we could do, Hardik, if you can, you could upload the test up on Gerrit. So maybe Serkant can take a look at the test and how it's performed. Make sure that the data that the test is finding as stale, it is actually stale data. And then if you have the time, Serkant, it would be great for you to revamp those patches based on the findings that Hardik did in the test to make sure that we have it a complete clean system in the way that it is supposed to be. Okay.
Okay. I'll try.
Okay. So Hardik, whenever you have the patch, upload it. And
yeah, the patch is up, but it's still a work in progress. So I think by tomorrow I should upload the one which will work perfectly for Serkant to test. Meanwhile, all the information related to the issue I think can be found in the Jira 4346 which Amit created. So maybe Serkant can take a look at that as well. And I think it was Girish, right? Girish, if you can please share with me the document on the data in etcd. Or Serkant, if you can do that.
Which one? Sorry, Hardik.
The document for what all data is stored in etcd currently.
Yeah, I can share that. I have it with me.
Okay. Thanks, Girish. Yeah, that's all, Indra. I think we can move on.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks, Hardik. So I'll hold on your update either from you or Serkant on how this proceeds.
Okay.
Okay. So on these, the flow delete on failure, the TAP rewrite, the MPLS support, I don't expect any update here. Let's skip them for now. But I'd like to see if there is any update on the VoIP design document so that we finalize it and make sure that the guys at Turk Telecom can start looking into the implementation so that it is ready whenever the gRPC stuff gets in. Mahir, is there anything you need from the group on this one?
I actually know. I mean, as far as I saw, there's no comment on the document to need to be addressed. So I think we can start with the current document.
There was only one comment, and I put a okay for it.
Okay, there might be some.
Yeah, Holger's comment, so makes sense. But we couldn't decide should we the type of the port? So should we put the OFPF copper, or should we put other or something else? That is an open issue still.
In the
to me,
last
go
year,
ahead.
we decided to OR the other and copper.
Other?
To the other and copper to put an OR between them. So
Oh, really? Okay.
Isn't it, Andrea?
Yes.
Okay, let me put a comment.
It's didn't we write it here?
No. Oh, okay, I see. So we'll apply this OFP port features copper or OFPF other and the proposal 3. So
Yes.
Yeah, we'll apply proposal 2, proposal 3 at the same time. Okay.
It's actually proposal 3 means both name -p and
Okay, got it.
We only have to make sure with this image that we don't break the test, that we don't make any assumption on the -1 UNI, but we'll take care of that whenever we have the code ready. Don't worry about it. Okay. Anything else that you guys want to bring up?
So we'll probably need to add a new API to configure the voice over IP related parameters, but we are still working on that, so we didn't put those requirements into this document.
In Onos, you mean?
No, in VOLTHA, I guess.
It is mentioned in the documents,
like
but its signature is not there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's gonna be probably like a technology profile thing, but it will cover all the necessary voice over IP configurations.
Where is this?
It's in RW core changes.
Okay.
Yeah, you see that's in the third paragraph, there is an API defined there to push the subscriber and service related data for VoIP. But its signature is not, there because it's not yet defined.
Okay. I would suggest to reuse as much as possible elements in the existing thing. I mean, if you could put in the technology profile or like, I don't know, somewhere else that without having to define a new API, that maybe it's better, but up to you. I'll let you do a proposal and then we can discuss it. Okay.
I think, Andrea, we don't have any APIs for technology profile also.
Yeah.
We are pushing it directly to the etcd. Actually, we have to put also in somewhere we have to put an API to VOLTHA to push the technology profile data to etcd.
So you're saying that not go directly to etcd, but go from VOLTHA.
Yeah, I think we should. We should do it in a way to call an API in VOLTHA, and so let VOLTHA at least RW core to put the data to key store.
I think there is a defined API in the SEBA RD for that, but we don't have those API in VOLTHA, so we should do that.
Okay. Do this, start a proposal for this one, and then we can talk about the other one as well.
Okay.
Any questions for Serkan or Mahir about this? Any comments?
Yeah, I haven't taken a look at this. I somehow missed this, but I would really like to understand why we need an API to push the technology profile, that we need did not need until now. Let me look at this and come back to you, Mahir. Or
The Girisha, as far as I understand, this is the first time I discussed the technology profile API as well, is just because right now to inject a technology profile, you effectively use an etcd API that is internal to the cluster, and you kind of use etcd CTL, and there is no, you kind of have to build a custom wrapper, and Mahir still can correct me if I'm wrong. You have to build a custom wrapper in your systems that stay above vOLTHA and ONOS to inject this technology profile. Instead, if you had it in the vOLTHA APIs, it would be much simpler because it would be just a matter of calling another gRPC API of vOLTHA, for which you already have all the elements in your systems that are staying up north of vOLTHA and ONOS to do so. Is that right, Mahir, Serkan?
Yeah, right. I mean, think that you have a system up and running on the field, and you define a new technology profile say in your management system or in your UI. Then you have to put this technology profile into database explicitly with, etcd APIs. So I think it's not acceptable. I mean, if it is a product, it should have some APIs to configure its data. We cannot explicitly put data into the database in these cases.
The data you're inserting in, it's a JSON object, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah,
for the technology profile.
So if you're going to pass this JSON object to an API, you effectively inserting data into the database anyway. It's just you're calling a custom gRPC to put the data someplace as opposed to calling etcd to put the data someplace. So the question is, if we're going to move it to the vOLTHA API, then does it become a very explicit protobuf that defines the tech profile such that it's not a free-form JSON anymore?
But the intention is, but not-bound components doesn't need to know the technology, database technology, which vOLTHA uses. So it could be etcd, it could be MySQL, or it could be Redis, whatever. So only one API, the third-party components, not-bound components, should know, right?
That's a different issue, right? If you're putting a JSON object into the database, you're already saying essentially we have no API into this. There's no validation of the data. It's put a blob in, put a blob out, pull a blob out. The original reason we didn't add a vOLTHA API, those discussions happened, was because the vOLTHA API is essentially just a very thin wrapper around etcd, and why create an extra API and have you call gRPC API and then it turns around and calls another RPC. Why not just write directly to etcd? Because you didn't add anything on top of etcd. That was the original justification.
David, if okay, I got it, but
yeah,
I can say that we need an API to configure our system with it by its way. If some checks should be done for the content of the data or its shape, etc., its structure, it should be done in the API also. I don't say that we should write our wrapper directly to put it to the etcd, but the configuration should be done via the system. I cannot define a technology profile in a central place in my NMS and send it to 1,000 different etcds around, I
get that. I get that. I don't. Well, I get that. I don't understand why you'd be sending to it. I guess you could be sending to 1,000 etcds if each vOLTHA stack has its own etcd. But the difference would be writing 1,000 etcd calls as opposed to writing 1,000 vOLTHA gRPC calls.
Yeah,
you'd still have the same number of calls. It's just what you're calling. The logic behind having people go directly to etcd for this was, one, vOLTHA had no say in what data was put there, and two, vOLTHA was essentially just saying any call that we added to the vOLTHA API was just really an alias for an etcd call. So why have an alias? That doesn't seem to add value. So the question I have is, if we're going to put this in vOLTHA, then do we also become very strict in terms of what the data is, and not just have an open flow JSON object now, but now the proto really defines what the tech profile is? Do we have to be explicit about that, or is it really just we're going to put an alias in the vOLTHA API to write to etcd?
So one thing that would be up for debate. I wouldn't venture into it today, but maybe to put some thoughts into this. We could model the technology profile in a much better way and have it as a protobuf, because right now it's just a JSON blob, but at least we could do some validation because right now we just trust the technology profile you insert is good.
Yeah, of course. As I said, if any validation should be done, it should be done. Yeah, I don't say that we should put the blob into the database, but the point here I'm trying to say is, we should let the platform or product to do its configuration. We should do its APIs. Otherwise, all UI things would be, we should convert all of the UI to MySQL queries or what the database is. We should put it with database APIs otherwise.
I was one of the original proponents of keeping in the KV store, right? Because it didn't seem valuable to me to create a thin alias over the KV store. I don't care if we want to add it to vOLTHA, that's fine. I think the next question then becomes, do we, as you said, fully model the tech profile, leave it as a blob? My opinion would be, if we're moving into the API, it then seems to me that it would be appropriate to fully model it.
I would agree.
Hi, this is Amit. So if we go back to the history, right? I think if we think about why things are this way, I think there was a conscious decision earlier, right? That the core should be completely agnostic to the tech profile. And I think that's the reason why things are this way, right? And I think now what we are saying is that we want to move away from that.
Yeah, part of it was really just when we started designing the API around tech profile, you'd have a vOLTHA put profile, and that vOLTHA put profile was literally just a KV write. And then it becomes, do we want to have all these capabilities, particularly, as you said, as a core has no visibility of what's happening there? Do we want to have all these aliases? And the consensus at the time was no, we didn't. Again, if we want to start putting that in, as I said, I think then it becomes, we do this as a exercise of coming up with a model for the tech profile.
Yeah, so in this case, the vCore has nothing to do with the tech profile, right? It's somebody else who writes it, and it's only the adapters who read it.
Right, so it has nothing to do with the core. Why is an API on the core?
Yeah. Why should the core be even involved in that?
The other thing that I would add is if we're trying to model the tech profile, I think one reason why it's in JSON is to allow for extensibility. So if we try to model it in Pro Tools, will we end up just having a bunch of any's it's a wild card to have anything in that model, or we're going to restrict it? Because originally, I believe that one of the major problem why we move into a tech profile into configuration, it was because it was too restrictive.
It was again not something that anybody was set, and each adapter could potentially have its own tech profile.
Yeah.
But again, if we want to maintain that, then I would say the argument still holds. Why make it a vOLTHA API? It's actually not part of vOLTHA.
Already there is proto for technology profile. I mean, there is tech profile proto. So it's not some uncontrolled, data blob. I mean, there is a proper format to it. But yeah, I mean, I agree with the arguments that Amit also made. The read-write core was technology agnostic, so that's why we had. And moreover, we interact with etcd even otherwise. When if not for tech profile, we do it for MIP templating. I don't think we have something for logging, but
we do have
interact.
we do have it for logging, Girish.
Yeah.
Actually, the
Okay.
way.
Yeah. So all of them. I mean, does it mean that we need an API for all of them? I mean, etcd is an infrastructure component, so you need your management systems to interact with it. I mean, tech profile is just one more thing. I mean,
Okay.
So I'm
guys,
not fully convinced, but
yeah,
yeah,
go ahead,
we could just more. Yeah, that's all.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's think about it a little bit because we're top of the hour and we have a little bit of fish to fry with the gRPC stuff. Let's get one thing at a time. I do like the discussion. I'll try to think about it myself. So I formulate a better opinion on this and then get back to everybody. Okay. Okay, thanks everybody. I'll talk to you again next week. Let's try and get that done, the gRPC stuff this week. So over the weekend we can have some runs on all of our tests, including Hasba. Thanks everybody. Have a great day. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Thanks, bye.
Bye-bye.